Hi, everyone. This is Raquel.
Hi, and this is Jennifer.
Welcome to Madness Cafe.
This is a feminist podcast where we talk about women's issues, politics, and health and wellness.
And where those issues intersect. Hey, everybody. Welcome to our very first episode of Madness Cafe. So Jennifer and I want to take a moment to introduce ourselves and talk about our vision for the podcast so that you guys get a chance to get to know us before we get started. So Jennifer, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay, I'm super excited. My name is Jennifer Bolaños, and I see myself as an independent, forward-thinking woman who also happens to be a mother, a hard worker, a homeowner, had a household, overall pretty successful. But this last year during the pandemic, it had me really thinking about how do we rate success? Like, how do we really measure that? And I started writing. a book about my life. And then as an extension from that, I started writing these really interesting, well, I think they're interesting. I don't know if other people do, but I started writing these Instagram/Facebook posts talking about kind of my issues, my troubles, my angst, the things that I'm thinking about. And through that process, I feel like I've created a community because I think we all have the same basic struggles and issues, but nobody wants to talk about them. And so I wanted to start talking about them. That's why I wanted to do the podcast. So why did I want to be part of this podcast? Well, number one, I really wanted to connect with Raquel, an old friend from high school I haven't seen in a very long time, because I feel we have a lot in common and a lot to talk about, but also because I really wanted to, I wanted our listeners to know that we all go through the same things, to let you know that you're not alone, that you're not crazy, and that we can sit together in our pain, we can sit together in our joy, and we can build community together. We don't have to, as women, stay silent anymore. So that's my thoughts on it.
I like that.
So Raquel, what kind of questions do you have for me about that?
Well, you mentioned the pandemic, and I know that's been a huge thing for everybody this past year. But was there something specific that started you talking about, what you've been going through, and basically just talking about the thoughts in your head?
Yeah, that's funny that you would ask that, Raquel, because today's post on Instagram was exactly about that. It's a long story, so I'm not going to go into all of it. Midway in the pandemic, I started working from home, not at the beginning like most people. Months and months in, I went and kind of broke my mom out of her retirement community because I couldn't see her. And I was crying every night, and I felt terrible that she was all alone. My mom has Alzheimer's, so I knew that her best days were now, today, whatever today is, it's only going to get worse and worse. And so I brought her home, and in being home, I was really in a quiet environment for the first time in a long time. And so my thoughts were coming a lot more clearly than they did when I was in the rat race, running to work, getting in the car, getting the kids to school, running here, running there, running everywhere. So I was able to really think about the things that I want to focus on. So yeah, that's the main reason.
Now, you've mentioned your kids a couple of times, and you mentioned that you're a mom. And I know, since I know you, that you have daughters. So what do you hope that your daughters take from your personal journey as well as your journey with the podcast?
Oh my gosh, Raquel, that's such a good question because it drives almost everything I do. That is such a good question. When my kids were little, I used to think, I just want my kids to be happy. That was like my goal. And then I realized somewhere along the way that happiness is just an emotion, and it's impossible to sit in happiness 24/7, that life is about living. And we do have heartbreak and anger and fear and love and joy and all these emotions. And happiness is just like part of that process. But what I really want them to be is authentic, to be able to be whoever they are. Mm-hmm. And I feel that's been a huge chase for me. But I feel that the only way we can do that is through learning how to speak our truth. So I feel like if I can model that for them, then hopefully they can get there way before age 52.
Right.
Right? That is the reason I do everything. That is such a good question.
I love that about you. And I truly hope that your daughters realize that that's what drives you. And it'll be really interesting in a few years, or 10 years or 20 years or periodically to ask them, what do you think about what I do? Or what do you think about how I've tried to be more authentic? And, what do you guys take away from this? I think that would be a really great discussion. And, I don't know. I mean, that could be another book
Yeah,
for
maybe it
you,
will be someday.
So I
Do
know
you want to
I think
introduce yourself? Because,
sure.
you've been talking a lot about me. I think we should tell our listeners about you.
Okay. All right. I am Raquel Howard. I am a dreamer, feminist, a liberal Democrat, and a true Virgo with a hearty laugh, a tender heart, and a fierce spirit. I prefer deep, thoughtful conversations over small talk, but unfortunately, those kinds of conversations aren't happening as frequently as I would like. The issues that I care about and want to discuss are ones that need increasingly safer places in which to have those conversations. Thus, Madness Cafe. So, this is a safe space to talk about women, politics, health, wellness, and the places where all of those issues intersect. These conversations will have varying levels of ease and comfort for me, for you, and for our listeners. But regardless of how easy or difficult those conversations are, I hope that hearing us talk and explore and listen will help our listeners get a bit closer to having similar discussions in their own lives. I'm just really glad that our listeners are here. I just want to thank them for joining us.
All right, Raquel, great introduction. I have some questions for you. Are you ready?
I think I am.
So I want to know, what does the term true Virgo mean to you?
I was wondering if you were going to ask me that. I can be a perfectionist. For me, manifests as being pretty hard on myself, which is something that, I've kind of struggled with actually throughout my life. And I'm trying to get better about that. But I think it also drives me in that I want to do the best that I can. I think also being a true Virgo is that I want to be of service and I want to help people. And one way that I feel that I can do that is with this podcast, giving people a safe space to have conversations that maybe they aren't comfortable having with other people. And I like to pride myself on being open and willing to have those conversations with people and being a safe space for people to ask the questions and to not feel to not feel, embarrassed about what they might want to ask or not to feel attacked about things that they have questions about because it can be a pretty scary place to ask people things about, who they are or how they're different or things that you don't understand. And sometimes people don't even have the language to ask those questions but they really want to learn. And so I want to help be a safe space for people to learn and ask questions. And if that's how I can be of service and help other people, then so be it.
Well, I'm glad you answered that question that way, because what I think is really interesting is that in your intro, talk a lot about being a safe space. And I want to talk about all the same issues, but I want to put them out there for everybody and make them talk about it.
Yeah.
No safe spaces.
No. Okay. Well, but I think that makes us work well together. Do you know what I mean? Because, you're like, let's bust it open. Let's talk about it. And that's awesome. Yes. Bust it open, talk about it. Because people aren't talking about these things. And so that's what we're gonna do. Madness Cafe. There's gonna be some madness, but it's
Yeah.
okay.
I guess the way I see it is there's all these things, there's so many things to talk about, but I see these people sitting out there thinking they're all alone.
Mhm.
Like maybe maybe their mother has Alzheimer's and they're sitting there thinking, oh my God, she's crazy and I don't like her right now, but I don't want to tell anybody that because they'll think I'm a terrible daughter. But
Mhm.
everybody who has a parent with Alzheimer's sometimes doesn't like them because their brain is not working right. They do unlikable things. That's normal. And I want people to know it's normal. I really wanted to talk about the safe place because I think that's where you and I differ. And I think that's where we're going to push each other kind of over the edge a little bit. And you
Sure.
said people are going to have varying levels of comfort. So it's probably good that you're here to monitor me.
It's good that you're here to kind of like push me a little bit. And honestly, though, there will be times I'm sure where you may have to rein me in a little bit.
Yeah.
So, it's gonna be a give and take, right? I mean, with any relationship, you give and take. Sometimes one person is gonna be one way and the other one is the compliment, and then other times it's gonna flip. So I think it's awesome that we have the varying, sort of degrees of where we're gonna be with all these topics. So,
It's a really good partnership. It's
mhm,
just occurred to
yeah.
me that we should, before we move on to our visions, which I'm kind of excited to talk about because I'm a firm believer in visioning and I hope one day we have an episode about it. Before we move on to that, I think that we should tell a little bit about our history, how we know each other, because
Okay.
yeah, I think that's kind of unique how we came back into each other's lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell how we met originally, and then you tell the story of what you created for us, because that's super cool. Raquel and I went to high school together, and we were in the same grade. And really, probably the area that we had the most interaction was on the diving team. Raquel was a fearless diver. I mean, you had all kinds of guts, woman. And I think we were all fearless because we were all standing there in a bathing suit in front of the entire high school on the end of a diving
Yes.
board. It's
Yes. Oh my
crazy if
gosh.
you think back.
Oh, yeah, and honestly that never even entered my head. Never entered my head
I
that,
mean,
"Oh, I'm basically," and those suits were, I mean, they left nothing to the imagination. So we
no,
were
my
basically
belly
like,
showed.
yeah, everything. Show
Yeah.
everything. Oof.
But I look back on it and I think, I mean, we were so brave. We just threw ourselves off the end of the diving board.
I mean, I don't know if I would do that now. I mean,
Oh, I wouldn't.
yeah,
Well, maybe. Who knows?
we'll see.
Maybe. Who knows? And then we didn't see or talk to each other for years and years and
Yeah,
years. We
years.
became Facebook friends. So we saw posts now and again about one another.
Mhm,
And I think we
mhm.
commented on each other's posts here and there.
Yeah.
And then around came about this time last year.
Yep,
So
yep.
what happened?
When George Floyd was murdered, well, let me back up. For years leading up to George Floyd, I wanted to be in a book club again because I really missed that. I used to be in a book club and I loved it. And, I made great friends from it and I missed that. And so I'd been thinking, oh, I want to do this again. Who's got a book club? Right. I was looking for somebody else to do it. And then last year, George Floyd was murdered. And I was completely shaken by that. Just, I mean, everybody was, but it just hit me hard. And, I would read posts from people, saying, oh, what do I do? I can't believe this. How could this happen? And I would just get so angry. And I thought, you know what? Just read a book, quit asking other people. Just read a book, educate yourself, read a book, And I thought, wait a minute. Why am I why am I putting this all on other people? I've been wanting to start a book club and I want to figure out a way that I can be helpful. And maybe I can help educate somebody somehow, even if it's just one person. And I thought maybe a book club focusing on racial justice and social justice. And I put a feeler out on Facebook first. Would anybody be interested? And I got a lot of great response, and it really kind of blew me away. I thought, well, okay, I guess I'm doing it. And so I created the Facebook page and I put it out there and invited a bunch of people, and you were one of the people who jumped on board. And it's really fantastic. And we actually connected even more because of the book club. And you've honestly been such a great participant in the book club. And I really appreciate that because that's just been awesome that so many people have gotten involved and that you've been a huge part of it. Yeah, and then out of that, it's been going really well, but I thought, you know what? I want to do more and I want to reach more people and I want to address more issues. And I thought, why not a podcast? That'll be a way to sort of open it up, hopefully reach more people. And you and I had talked about a podcast. I thought, well, here we go. We're going to do it. It's going to be a podcast. And thankfully, you were on board and very excited about it. And I thought, yep, we're doing it. And
Let's do it.
yeah. And
Let's do a podcast. What could go wrong?
Exactly. All kinds of people have podcasts. Why not us? We can do it.
No, the book club has meant the world to me. Sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes the conversations are difficult. I don't want to get into it too much right now because this show's about our vision.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that I will say is that I always knew racism existed, but I never understood it. I always thought, how I don't get it. Skin color, it just doesn't make sense. But after we started reading the books that you selected, I started to see how our government, how our big business, how the people at the top, the people with power,
supported and it's perpetuated and
I had no idea. I was so naive to that. I just thought racism meant, like a person on the street who just doesn't like a person because they're a person of color. And I thought, well, okay, that's just going to die out. That's just part of old world thinking and eventually it'll be gone. I had no idea we were supporting it through our policies. And now I don't understand it all, but I get it much better than I did before. So your podcast at least taught me something. At the very least, not your podcast, your book club.
Yeah. Well, hopefully the podcast will teach people some things or
yeah, I have a feeling we're going to talk about it a lot. I mean, it's top of mind. It's a big issue. And I think yesterday was actually the anniversary of George Floyd's death. So we're right on par a year later.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So who knows what's going to be a year from now, where our podcast is going to be, what's your vision for where we're going to be in a year?
Well, I am going to have to read my vision word for word. I can't just wing it like I did the introduction because I want to make sure all the important parts of my vision come forward. And the way I wrote the vision is to sort of like feel and taste and live what it seems like a year from now. So let me read it to you.
Cool.
So this is my vision of the Madness Cafe podcast 1 year from now, which would be May of 2022 or end of May, really. So here we go. Well, it's been a year and what a great year. Raquel and I have connected so well with one another and our podcast listeners that we now have over 500,000 followers. What is super exciting to me is that they write in and ask us questions that make us think. Sometimes we have to put some research into the project, including reading our interview guests' work and preparing thoughtful questions. We have had some pretty amazing guests. It's been intimidating and it has pushed us out of our comfort zone. And just think, that all started by interviewing our friend Ten about her book and her struggle with healthcare. It was so amazing that the interview helped push her book into the top 10 categories on Amazon. That was the beginning. It also prompted successful people from our high school to contact us to share their stories as well. We ended up creating a community of passionate, like-minded individuals who want to open up, be vulnerable, sit in each other's grief and pain, celebrate with one another in their joy and love, and just be there for each other. We have had so much fun as we focus on women's issues, politics, and health and wellness. The fun can't be beat, but we are also both feeling the abundant flow of money and support from our efforts. It sure feels good to get paid doing what we love. And in the process, we have been able to open people's minds when it comes to racism, sexism, and all the other isms out there. People follow us not because they think we have all the answers, but because they know we will ask smart questions and that we are both open to learning as we go. We build community together. Raquel and I build community together.
Awesome. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. I really, really do. I
It's
think
kind of powerful.
it is so powerful, and that's amazing.
What kind of questions do you have?
Is there like dream guest that you would like to have on the show?
Oh my gosh. Well, we both listen to a lot of podcasts, right?
Oh,
So lately, of course, I've been listening to Brene Brown and to
yeah.
Oprah and to so many others. And they seem to have Jay Shetty, they seem to
Mhm.
have similar guests on.
Yeah.
And so when I was thinking about it today while I was walking, I was like, if we ever got to that caliber, that we were considered part of the spiritual podcast or the health and wellness podcast, where the same person who went on Oprah's show would come on our show to share, or we could at least be talking about the same topic so that we're spreading a similar message. So I
Right.
guess that's not one guest in particular, that community of like-minded people, I
Mhm.
suppose. I would really like to see our friend Ten and her book
Oh, absolutely.
skyrocket to the top. And if we could help support that in some way, I think that would be really amazing. And other people that we know that are maybe doing some writing or some creating that we could help promote, as long as it's in line with the vision.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that would be great. In
Yeah.
fact, yeah, off the top of my head, I already can think of at least 3 people that would be awesome to have on the show.
Who are
Um,
your people?
to. Well, there's one person that I know. There's a friend of mine who does work with a nonprofit that does clothing drives, and
Oh,
I mean,
cool.
it's a pretty huge organization. I think it's a national organization, and I would love to talk to her about it because she didn't start out in nonprofits. And so to hear about her journey with that, what's changed for her now that she's at that point, I think that would be really interesting.
But what I know about visioning is
Mm,
in order to like have that vision come forth,
mhm.
describe right now what it feels like to you to be having that conversation with her. What would that feel like?
It would feel like giving an opportunity for her to spread the word about her organization, and it would feel like like a discovery for our listeners to realize that, hey, there's another avenue for me to help somebody else. um,
Yeah.
so I think that would be fantastic, and it would also be not just a discovery about that organization, but a discovery of, hey, here's this other person who's doing this amazing work. There's other people out there doing these great things.
It sounds like
So
connection to me. It feels like
yes.
connection of this
Yeah.
person and you really admire their work, connection to the community that you're building.
We have friends from high school who are in healthcare, especially during the beginning of the pandemic, and reading some of their posts on Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I would be honored to have any of them on the show to talk about their experience
Oh, yeah.
and to help maybe personalize COVID for
And
people.
debrief it.
Yeah, because I think there's so many people who still don't get that it's as bad as it is, and that it was as bad as it was back then, and that it could be that way again. It would be really great to hear from a real person, not
Who was
just
in the trenches.
yeah,
Yeah.
not the head of, a hospital in Seattle, but somebody who was really in the thick of it, somebody who was actually touching the patients and dealing with the people and having to, take a break in the middle and go, cry their eyes out, or and then have to clean themselves back up and go back at it and be the
Without
support
PPE.
for whoever patient, right? Yeah, without PPE, and then
Yeah.
worrying about their own safety and worrying about their family
It
safety,
had to be so
having to
scary.
deal with people saying that it wasn't a real thing. And they're like,
Oh,
I see it every day. Of course it's real. So I think that would go a long way to helping people really understand what's at stake. Being able to put that message out there as well I think that would be huge.
Well,
Yeah.
let's get them on our list and let's get them in and let's do an episode.
All right. We're on
All
it.
right. So you also wrote a vision. Do you want to share yours?
Yes. Okay. So I will admit, I am still working on my visioning skills. So that's actually something I really have been working on the last maybe 3 months.
Nice.
Because I've been working with a life coach and she's been awesome. She's fantastic. I would love to have her on too. She's awesome.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. And um, so when I wrote mine, it was more of kind of thinking about the future. So mine's going to sound a little different, but in my heart, it's in the present moment. So I'm working on connecting my heart with what comes out of my mouth.
Okay.
So I'm going to read mine as well because I want to get all of mine in there. So here we go. A year from now, Jennifer and I will be inspiring other women to have the tough conversations, to open up, to listen, to ask questions of others and themselves, and to question what they've been taught or what they've always believed. I want Madness Cafe to be an open dialogue. I truly want to hear from our listeners. In fact, I would be over the moon if I was out and about anywhere and I overheard people talking about Madness Cafe. This really could go absolutely anywhere. A book, speaking engagements, guest spots on other podcasts. The sky's the limit. I am so excited to see where this ride takes us and all of the people that we'll have the opportunity to meet and to talk to and to learn from.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm feeling it. I am feeling it. I'm out and about and I heard somebody talking about the podcast.
Oh, no!
Okay, so my question is around beliefs because you brought up that you really hope that this gets people talking, engaged, interested, but maybe examining their beliefs, which is really hard for people, by the way.
Right.
Examining their beliefs, questioning them, and maybe changing them. That's a tough order.
It is.
How do you think we could do that for people?
I think by setting an example, because we've done it. You and I have done it. We've done the work. We've changed beliefs about things
That's true.
in ourselves, of other people. And so it's possible. Every change doesn't have to be this huge, earth shattering, monumental shift. The little shifts count too. And I don't want people to discount the small shifts. Those count. And I want people to be proud of those too.
It almost sounded like you said, I don't want people to discount the small shit. And I was like, that's great.
Sure, the small shit works. The small shit work. All of it. It all works. It all works.
Don't discount the small shit.
The small shit is good.
Yeah.
Take it.
So my favorite part of your vision was when you said, I would just be over the moon, because to me, that is like where your cerebral part of writing down the vision connected with your emotional, like how would I feel? I would feel over the moon about if I heard somebody talking about our podcast on the street. And I had never thought about that. But dang, I would be proud.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So proud.
Yeah, so and I'd be like, can I hear, let me just snuggle on up close to you. What are you saying about our podcast? Exactly. And then in our vision, they're saying, oh my gosh, have you heard those two talk? It's amazing.
I would love that. Oh,
yeah,
man, I would be so proud. I mean, I could literally see me hearing people and then getting on my phone and texting you.
Exactly. So that's cool. So we shared our intros and we shared our vision. Does that kind of wrap it up for podcast number 1, or do we have anything else we want to say?
I want to thank people for listening.
Who's listening? Our friends? We
talked our friends. Yes.
We talked our friends into listening.
So we've talked our friends into listening, talked some of our coworkers into listening. Hopefully they'll tell other people to listen. We'll post stuff on all of our socials. And honestly, it grows from there. I get emotional. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
just thinking about where this is going to go and what we're going to achieve with this and people that we're going to touch and the ways that this is going to affect our lives.
Yeah.
I mean, the ways that we're going to grow from this. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm super excited about it. I'm so thrilled that other people are going to be a part of this with us and on this ride with us. And literally from the bottom of my heart, I'm so thankful to everybody who tunes in. And Jennifer, to you, I am so thankful that you're on this ride with me. And I'm super excited.
I'm thankful that we're both brave enough to do this.
Yep.
Because who would have thought too long ago? But we're like, oh, I could do that. Oh, I could do that. Okay, let's try it.
Yep.
And I'm sure we'll get some help along the way, which
Of
is great.
course.
I think hopefully the people who tuned in will think this was kind of interesting and get on board. We have some really good ideas for podcasts to come. Some of the things we want to talk about are like top of my list. I'll give 3 on my list, and you give 3 on yours. I really want to talk about women and anger because I think that's huge. I don't think women in the United States are really allowed to be angry, and I think a lot of us are. So I'll just put that out there. And then I want to talk about mom/worker guilt. You know, like, and maybe it's just work-life balance guilt. I don't know if it necessarily has to be mom guilt, how to be all to everything. And then Raquel, you brought up something earlier where you said in your Virgoness is right? That you have this perfectionism. And I never really thought I was a perfectionist, but when I started writing my novel, and I started going to a therapist, I realized that I have a severe case of perfectionism that I never recognized, that I have also passed down to my children. And my book title right now, it could change, but the book I'm writing is called Giving Up Perfect.
Ooh, I like
Because, because that is what I have realized is probably the thing, if you want to talk women's issues, it's probably the thing that is just killing might be a strong word, but it's just killing us women. This desire to be perfect to everyone, everywhere, all the time. So there's my 3. How about your 3?
So kind of going along women in anger, emotional suppression, just as a country, because I think, just not just anger, but any deep emotion. I mean, we all live right here at the surface, and I count myself in that too, because
people are afraid to feel joy.
Exactly, and people are afraid to really like delve into it. So I think that's going to be a great topic. I also want to talk about how the pandemic has affected women specifically.
Oh, huge.
Huge in so many ways.
Huge.
So many ways.
All you have to do is look at the unemployment statistics to see that, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Another one I want to talk about is the pink tax. So basically, like if you go into I don't know, like Target, which I love Target, so don't anybody at me about Target.
You're gonna get it on our first episode. You're gonna get all those. Raquel's getting trolls already.
I know, right? Exactly. But say you go into any store and there's like say for razors, like a men's razor, X amount of whatever dollars. A woman's razor, it's gonna be more. And it's gonna be pink. Then there's also
I've never heard this term before. What's it called?
pink tax.
Pink tax.
Also with dry cleaning. Dry cleaning women's shirts more expensive than dry cleaning men's shirts.
That's bullshit.
Yep. And women bear the cost of birth control.
Yeah, that I know. Having supported my own birth control consumption, that I know.
Exactly. All the products having to deal with, menstruation.
Don't say those words.
I know, right? Oh my God, she said menstruation. So yeah, men don't have to pay for tampons. Men don't have to pay for pads. Well, somebody needs to pay for this other than just us, right?
You taught me something. Pink tax.
There you go. I am here. I am here to serve.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the issues that I want to delve into. So
great. This has been such a good episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. And to our listeners, stay tuned for more because there's a whole lot more coming.
And tell all your friends and get people to sign up because the vision states 500,000 listeners
Yes.
in the first year.
Get on it, people. Get on it. Help us help you.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks everyone for listening today. We will be back with more Madness Cafe next week. You can find us on Instagram at Madness Cafe Podcast or email us at madnesscafepodcast@gmail.com. Bye.